The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet suburban neighborhood. I sat at the kitchen table, my fingers wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. The house was eerily silent, save for the faint ticking of the wall clock. I glanced out the window at the empty street, my thoughts churning like a stormy sea. 11 years. 11 years of marriage, countless memories, and one monumental decision I could no longer postpone. My gaze drifted to the family photo hanging above the fireplace. It was taken 5 years ago, during a happier time. David and I were smiling brightly, with little Alex, only 8 years old then, beaming between us. How had we gotten here? My mind wandered back to the early days. I had been a single mom, juggling college classes and a 2-hour bus commute with my toddler in tow. David had been my knight in shining armor, living just a mile away and offering a lifeline I hadn't dared to hope for. He'd stepped into my life with open arms, helping raise Alex as if he were his own. For years, our relationship had been my sanctuary, a place where I felt loved and supported. But the last 6 years had been different. David's warmth had faded, replaced by a sharp edge of criticism and negativity. I tried to talk to him, to explain how his words cut deep, and his indifference left me feeling invisible. But nothing ever changed. Now, I realized, I had to make the change myself. I sighed deeply, setting down my mug. Today was the day I'd taken the first step. I had asked David for a divorce. The conversation had been tense but civil, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. Now, I faced an even more daunting task, telling Alex. Later that afternoon, I found Alex in his room, sprawled across his bed with headphones on, and his favorite video game blaring on the TV. The room was a chaotic mix of sports posters, discarded sneakers, and school books piled haphazardly on the desk. I knocked gently on the doorframe. "Hey, bud, got a minute?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Alex glanced over, pausing his game. "Sure, what's up?" I sat on the edge of his bed, smoothing the wrinkles in my jeans. "I need to talk to you about something important. Can we turn this off for a bit?" Alex raised an eyebrow, but obliged, muting the TV and pulling off his headphones. "Okay," he said, looking at me with the same curious eyes he'd had since he was a toddler. I took a deep breath. How could I find the right words to explain what felt so wrong? As I hesitated, my mind filled with memories. I thought of David teaching Alex to ride a bike, his hands steadying the handlebars, until Alex wobbled away on his own. I remembered family camping trips, with Alex perched on David's shoulders as they explored winding trails. David had been more than a stepfather. He'd been a part of Alex's foundation. But the David of today wasn't the man I'd married. His patience had eroded, and his once playful spirit had turned sour. I couldn't ignore the way his sharp words had begun to echo in Alex's growing awareness. I feared what staying in this environment might teach my son about relationships, about love. "Mom?" Alex's voice pulled me back to the present. "What's going on?" I reached for his hand, my heart aching as I saw the flicker of concern in his expression. "Alex, your dad and we've decided to separate." For a moment, Alex didn't say anything. Then his brow furrowed and his voice cracked. "What do you mean, separate? Like a divorce?" I nodded, squeezing his hand. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. I know this is a lot to take in." Tears welled in Alex's eyes, and my chest tightened. "But why? Is it something I did?" he asked, his voice trembling. "No, Alex, absolutely not," I said firmly. "This has nothing to do with you. Your dad and we just aren't happy together anymore. But that doesn't change how much we both love you." Alex sniffled, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. "Does Dad know? What's going to happen to us?" I hesitated, unsure of how much to share. "Yes, he knows. We're still figuring out the details, but we'll make sure you're okay. You'll still see him, and your bio-dad too. None of that will change." Over the following weeks, the house was filled with whispered conversations and quiet adjustments. David and I worked together to explain the situation to Alex in a way he could understand, reassuring him of our unwavering love and commitment to his well-being. I found a small apartment nearby, close enough for Alex to continue his routine. The transition wasn't easy, but it brought a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. Slowly, I began to rebuild, not just my life, but my sense of self. One evening, as I tucked Alex into bed, he looked up at me with a mixture of sadness and resilience. "Mom, I'm glad you're happy again. I miss Dad being here, but I get it now. Sometimes people change." I hugged him tightly, my heart swelling with pride. "You're such a smart, strong kid, Alex. I'm so proud of you." As I turned out the light and closed the door, I felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was moving towards something better, for myself and for my son.